Nothing really went wrong with the cars themselves, which is also quite surprising. However, is it? Well guys, I think Land Rover took us all by surprise when they decided to enter the Dakar this year with their Defender, and they decided to go all in as well. Not just a little casual entry, but 3 top line rally drivers, works cars, the whole lot, the whole backing, everything. And I think nobody saw that coming. It's been a really long time as well. Guess what? They did win their category. People can say it's a small category. That's all very good. They were racing against the Land Cruiser team, which has been doing this for maybe a decade. They came in with no experience of the Dakar itself, backing their car, minimum modifications. I don't know if you know much about the modifications. Everybody says, oh, they're very different. They weren't. And if you go and watch that one video, the team chef actually takes you through the whole car, and there weren't many things changed. They did change the suspension. Instead of airbags, they put in coils. They were allowed to, within the rules, move the suspension a bit wider, I think 6 centimeters or something like that. They obviously had bash plates underneath. They had a built-in roll cage, which is mandatory. The engine was detuned from 600 plus to 400 horsepower because they try and consider the weight of the car, something to that effect. They had less power than normal as well. They basically aced it. Nothing really went wrong. Obviously there were a few time penalties. Peter Hansel came in 4th because of a navigation error or something like that. Nothing really went wrong with the cars themselves, which is also quite surprising. However, is it? Because if you think back to the first Dakar, which took place a year before the Camel Trophy, so in 1979, private guy entered his Range Rover 2-door. Back in 1979, these cars weren't that old. They were only 8 years in production. Minimum changes to it. I think they had to put in a roll cage as well, which is mandatory. They put a bash plate underneath, and the biggest modification on the whole car was painting the bonnet black, which was huge. That was to stop the glare from the sun. And guess what? They won the Dakar outright, which is something quite phenomenal. 2 years later, semi-backed, factory-backed Range Rover went out in 1981, and they finished it first as well, which is incredible. So they've been doing this a while. Obviously they've got Camel Trophy behind them. Things have kind of stalled out a little bit since, let's say, 2008, when Tata took over. The economy took a dip. That's when the G4 actually stopped as well, if you remember that, because they were on a high. They were about to start the next 2009 edition. Economy recession hit. They had to put all their money into new development and no more promotions. So they've come back with a vengeance. Not only that, if you look at who won the Dakar Classic this year, which was about 90 entries, an old Series 3, I think it was a V8, which is fantastic. And let's not forget the 2 Gazelles, the Team Gazelles, the 2 women in their TD5 110. They came in 80th out of 90, but they finished the Dakar. The women's team, which is also quite unusual these days, even now, but they managed to drag it across the line, you know. So that speaks volumes for what the cars really can do. It's got a huge reputation for unreliability and problems all around, but they managed to get it through. Another point, the last point I want to make is, way back a couple of years ago, in 2013, the latest, just before the latest Range Rover Sport came out, the rounded one, they thought they'd put it on the map with a little exhibition of what they could do, harking back to maybe Darien Gap, those kind of things. A bit of a show. Might have gone under the radar a little bit, but where the Dakar was this year, which is UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, that kind of area, that is exactly where the Range Rover Sport went. It's called the Empty Quarter. That desert is about the size of France, which means there's nothing there at all. No habitation. The distance they covered was 850 kilometers. I think they went north-south or something to that effect. Solo car, no modifications at all, except for a plate underneath to protect the engine, and that's it. It took 10 hours to cover the desert, 850 kilometers. They had to have a refuel point right in the middle. Obviously, you're not going to make it. That's a long way. But they did it in 10 hours, which is fantastic. That's also a little showcase of what the Land Rover, Range Rover can do. It is fantastic. I'm really glad they're back in there, back in the sport, back in the World Rally Raid Championships, W2RC. I think they're going to do wonders as well. They've proven themselves already, which is fantastic. Back on the map, back to where they were. This kind of harks back to the early days of Land Rover when they used to go out and drive from London to Singapore in an old Series 1. And why not? Now they're doing it again. So if you want to know a little bit more about Land Rover, Range Rover, the whole history, the timeline, why things changed, how Rover started, where Jaguar is at, the military, the royalty, all the expeditions, everything involved, check out the link below. There's a book in there. We've reformatted it now. It's 350 pages long. All the info is still there, but it's a little more compact, a little more viable, I think, in that respect. Really good book to read. I really enjoyed researching it, to bring it to you, to share the history, because it's such a fantastic history Land Rover has, and just to see where they're going as well. So check out the link below. Thanks for watching this one. Got to say congrats to Land Rover again. They keep surprising us somehow, which is fantastic to see. So thanks for watching this one, guys. Catch you in the next one, and keep riding.